The governor of Arizona has declared a state of emergency on the border between his state and Mexico, adding the Biden administration is wrong not to call the situation a crisis. Earlier, I spoke with Arizona's Attorney General for an update. Joining us now is Mark Brnovich, Attorney General for the state of Arizona. Mr. Attorney General, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. We have a lot to get to, but I want to start off with the situation at your border. Can you give us a sense of what's happening there at the border of Arizona and Mexico? What are you seeing?
Well, if you talk to any of the local sheriffs, if you talk to the ranchers, and I was just down there this week, they will tell you that it's the worst they've ever seen. It truly is a humanitarian crisis, but it's also, quite frankly, a threat to our national security. Us in law enforcement know that there's been a 233% increase in fentanyl seizures just last month. We know that the cartels are making money off every single person that's coming across the border. And so it's truly a crisis, and the system is getting overwhelmed. Everything from the nonprofits to the law enforcement agencies.
Wow. And as you know, neither President Biden nor Vice President Harris has actually visited the southern border yet, but the Vice President did say that she will be visiting Mexico and Guatemala to discuss immigration and the root cause. I want to get your take on that, and also the fact that the Biden administration has refused to call the situation at the U.S. southern border a crisis.
Well, first of all, Tracy, the number of migrants we're seeing is 6 times higher than when President Obama called it a crisis. And so, you know, you can call it what you will, but it is a crisis. It's a disaster. And if we're not careful, we are going to end up with a tragedy. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's cartels exploiting folks. They're bringing all sorts of drugs into our country. We know that terrorists have been apprehended. We know that sex offender apprehension is at a 5-year high. So, you know, these aren't just people coming here for work. These are people literally that mean harm to other Americans. And the fact that the Biden administration has decriminalized and incentivized people to come over here, the system is overwhelmed. And just to put it in context, Tracy, this year they're expecting 2 million people to cross our border. Now think about it. That's like the entire state of Nebraska in 1 year coming over. So it's overwhelming, not only law enforcement, it's overwhelming social services. Migrants are being exploited, and it's not right. In the past, Vice President Harris has said you have to see and smell and feel what people are going through. So I urge her, come down here, talk to the ranchers, talk to the people that live on the border, talk to law enforcement, talk to the sheriffs, talk to the mayors. They will tell you that this is a disaster, a crisis, whatever you want to call it, and that we all as Americans are going to end up paying the cost for this.
Yeah, and I also understand that you recently filed a lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security and federal officials for violating the National Environmental Policy Act over, as what you described, destructive immigration policies. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, this is like the third in our series of litigations where we're trying to do everything we can, I can as an attorney general, to protect our border. So this lawsuit basically says that when the Biden administration stopped constructing the wall on day one, and then they rescinded the Remain in Mexico policy. As a result of those policies, more migrants are crossing into our desert, and that is causing destruction in our environment. You know, just last month, there was about 170,000 people that crossed. Now, the average migrant is leaving about 6 to 8 pounds of trash. So literally, you're talking about millions of pounds of trash scattered throughout our desert. So that is having an impact on whether it's fueling wildfires, destroying habitat. You know, it's an eyesore, obviously, but in so many ways, it's damaging our environment. And the left, the environmentalists, say that they care about the environment. They say they care about people being exploited. Then why aren't they doing something? And we all know that when the Biden administration stopped building that wall, that contributed to this crisis, and it contributed to the destruction of our environment.
Yeah, and you know, taking that action that you're doing right on the state level, is that something that other states are considering doing, and are they doing that? What do you know?
Well, I know that other states have been involved in litigation. They're trying to do things, you know, and so I think it's important that we do everything we can. And I'm using every tool in my toolbox. And I think that there are some elected officials that have moved slower, but some aren't moving at all. And, you know, it breaks my heart, because if this was, God forbid, a hurricane in the South or wildfires in California, I guarantee you President Biden or Vice President Harris would be out there holding a press conference, declaring an emergency, getting in the necessary federal resources to try to mitigate the harm and the damage. And yet, when it's happening right here in our state and in other states across this country, They don't seem to care. I genuinely don't understand it. It perplexes me on so many levels as a former gang prosecutor, former federal prosecutor. I don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah, and we are also still in the middle of a pandemic. I'm sure that COVID is also an issue there at the border with those coming over. What comes next on your part?
Well, we have multiple lawsuits going on. We've been urging the governor to declare an emergency and mobilize the National Guard, so he has done that now. My hope is even our U.S. senators now are talking about this and how important it is to get federal resources. So I do think it's important that other folks are recognizing what is going on and that it's a crisis and a catastrophe. I'm going to continue to do my part, and that's to fight for the rule of law. And one thing I do want to say, Tracy, is that, look, I'm a first-generation American, and I understand maybe more than most folks about how great this country is and how great the system is. But what makes it so great is that the rule of law. It means that no matter who you are, where you come from, if you play by the rules, you have an opportunity to get ahead. And so as the Attorney General, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure that we play by the rules, that we protect people that have played by the rules, that we prevent people from being exploited, and we're doing everything we can to stop the cartels from sending drugs into our country and overwhelming the system.
Well, unfortunately, we have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for your time today, and please keep us posted. Mark Brnovich, Attorney General for the state of Arizona. Thank you again.